Let's return to politics to wrap up the show this afternoon. Joining me is Labor MP and member for Parramatta. He's the Special Envoy for Cyber Security and Digital Resilience, Andrew Charlton, and the member for Flinders, Liberal MP Zoe McKenzie. Great to see you both. Andrew, the Treasurer says the government's been vindicated. He's been vindicated with his approach to spending as opposed to slashing and burning. But isn't there some middle ground where savings could be made short of what is described as an austerity budget?
Well, good to be with you, Kieran. Look, it's true that growth in Australia is very low and the economy has been weak. And rule number one of a weak economy is don't kick it while it's down. Any economist knows that if you withdraw public spending at a time like this, you will push the economy, which is at razor-thin growth, into a recession. We've got a recession in New Zealand, we've had recessions in Japan, in the United Kingdom, in Finland, in many other countries. Australia hasn't had a recession, and the point that the Treasurer is making is that if we were to take the advice of the Liberals, do what they advise us to do, Australia would be in recession because that razor-thin positive growth would be negative.
But Andrew, given the level of spending, does that, as an economist, does it not crowd out private investment, private expenditure, Andrew?
Well, this is the critical question for the economy. It's how do we spend in a way which crowds in rather than crowds out private spending. And we do have an employment constraint at the moment, with employment being relatively high. And that's why the measures that the government has focused its spending on have been measures which get that balance right, which help people doing it tough with the cost of living and promote productivity and capacity expanding initiatives within the economy. Things like skills and infrastructure, things that instead of crowding out the private sector, give them incentives to invest and focus on the future. So that's the difficult balance in this budget, and I think it's one that the government has struck.
Zoe McKenzie, it is a difficult time for incumbents and governments to navigate. The Treasurer is adamant they're on the path for the soft landing.
Well, the Treasurer is wrong. He seems to take the approach which is, if we build it, they will come. If we just keep saying responsible economic management, maybe somebody will believe that's what we're doing. But we see absolutely no evidence of it. The pump priming of the Australian economy continues to keep core inflation at one of the highest in the G20's countries. The IMF predicts we will be at 3.6% next year, and that is what is keeping pressure on interest rates. Today, the average Australian family is paying $26,000 more in interest payments alone. Today, 26,000 businesses have gone out of business during the life of this Albanese government. No one has any reason to say thank you for the balance, thank you for whatever you think you're doing to manage the economy, because they're frankly just not. There's over about $350 billion of spending in this budget that we don't think is strictly necessary. I've been part of governments before where we've had to make really hard decisions about what stays in and what goes out. This government has no appetite, no backbone, no strength and no courage to make such decisions. They're throwing money around like it's an end-of-year party.
When it comes to the nuclear debate, let's
it's okay for
end on that if we can. I do want to squeeze this in because, Andrew, you can pick up if you like on that. But sure. On the nuclear discussion, the challenges remain. But it seems that there is an appetite among many voters to consider this. There's a lot at play and a lot at stake on this issue over coming months, Andrew.
Look, I think Peter Dutton's nuclear plan is falling apart like a sloppy burrito. He's already had huge problems with the numbers that they have released, with heaps of holes and poor assumptions in those numbers. He's got Liberals, senior Liberals from across the states and territories running a million miles from his plan. And he has tried to claim that there'd be a 44% reduction in energy prices as a result of this plan, which not even his own modelling shows. This policy is turning out to be a disaster for the Liberals. It shows that Peter Dutton will say anything to become Prime Minister and that he doesn't have a serious plan for Australia's energy future.
Zoe McKenzie, has it resembled a sloppy burrito?
Sorry, I couldn't get over the imagery of the sloppy burrito for a moment there, but can I say one thing in terms of figures? And $275 less. I could say it 97 times, and then maybe the average Australian would know just how let down they have been by this government, because that is what they were promised. $275 less, a reset in the cost of their energy. What's it costing them at the moment? About $1,000 more a year, contributing to that number I gave you before, 26,000 businesses lost just in the term of this government. Energy costs are killing people. We have put forward a broad, all-inclusive plan, keeping renewables, but equally investing in nuclear, like 50 other countries are looking at doing around the world, like 32 countries already have in place, to make sure that the lights are always on and our industry can keep doing what it does best. At least we are trying, and we are not lying to people what it will cost. You have Labor's plan saying it'll be $122 billion, but we know it'll be about $650 billion in terms of poles and wires and the other investment required to keep the Australian economy alight.
Andrew Charlton, your response on that in terms of the comparison with what you're planning and underselling, as Zoe argues, on the price?
Well, Zoe knows that the difference between the $122 billion and the $600 billion is not the reason that she described. It's not poles and wires. It's an accounting trick that Ted O'Brien pulled, where he took a number that was in net present value terms and inflated it to nominal terms. That is the difference between the $122 billion and the $600 billion. Zoe's a smart person. She knows that, and she shouldn't try and trick us to suggest that the difference is poles and wires. The truth is that the Liberals' plan doesn't add up, and they've produced a series of dodgy statistics to try and show what can't be true, which is that nuclear, which everyone knows is the most expensive form of energy, is somehow going to save Australians money. Everybody who has thought about this for 30 seconds knows that that just doesn't add up. No amount of reports, no amount of dodgy statistics, no amount of Zoe saying it's true can make anybody believe it.
Well, in 50 countries around the world looking at doubling their investment. Going from there. So 50 countries around the world are looking at investing more in nuclear. We've already got 30. It would be a sufficiency of power to last us 60 to 80 years. And due to their kind of religious determination around renewables, this government won't even look at it.
Zoe, Andrew, I'm off to get a burrito. A late lunch with a burrito, Andrew. Thanks for the tip. I hope you both have a wonderful Christmas and New Year with your families. We'll see you next year, both of you. Andrew, Zoe, all the best.